रेडी? जो मैं डिक्टेशन डिक्टेट कर रहा हूँ, ये जो आपका कंटेंट है पार्लियामेंट से कंटेंट लिया गया है। अनसीन कंटेंट, ये आपको सॉफ्टवेयर मिल जाएगा सेम नाम से। स्टार्टेड। The relationship between parliament and media is crucial aspect of public's right to be informed. Parliament or the legislature in this sense is the forum where public issues and policies are discussed and public grievances are addressed, as media acts as an and informs them about makers to understand the pulse of society by providing a feedback mechanism. Public figures, parliamentarians or legislators have to sometimes sacrifice their right to privacy as individuals so as to satisfy public's right to know. Disclosure of information held by government or public authorities in public interest is also a requirement of an informed democracy, which needs to be balanced with requirement for secrecy, privacy. In India, under the Parliamentary Proceedings Protection of Publication Act 1977, statutory protection has been given to publication in newspapers or broadcasts by wireless telegraphy of substantially true reports of any proceedings of either House of Parliament, provided reports are for public good and are not malicious. Normally, no restrictions are imposed on reporting the proceedings of the House unless the report is malafide or there is willful misrepresentation or suppression of speeches of particular members, which constitutes a breach of privilege and contempt of the House. During this conference, our focus may not be confined to relationship between Parliament and media. As the theme suggests, Parliament has as much interest and responsibility as any stakeholder to be fully alive to debate on whole gamut of laws that impinge on and have implications for media freedom. This is a matter that concerns larger society for which parliaments and parliamentarians owe a responsibility. Today, when we talk about media freedom, we not only think in terms of strengthening media freedom, but also to regulate so that freedom is used in a constructive manner. As the medium through which public is informed of public issues, government policies and programs, freedom of media is essential. This freedom makes it possible for media to exercise huge influence on society by shaping public opinion. The power that media has in a free, democratic society is apparent from the status it has earned as fourth state of society. However, it is also to be understood that with powerful right to freedom come great responsibilities. Hence, there is need for media to ensure that freedom is wisely and responsibly used and corresponding responsibilities are consciously fulfilled. How to achieve this, whether by an imposed law or by guidelines voluntarily adopted by media, is the main question about responsibility of media. Friends, it is worth reminding ourselves that the situation that prevails in a country cannot be a template for all societies everywhere, although there may be insights and best practices that can be shared from each other's experience. As we know, the situation in India is not quite similar with that of UK. We have distinct systems of regulation for broadcast media, print media, and social media. The broadcast media is regulated by the Cable TV Networks Regulation Act 1995. The Act does not provide for any regulatory authority, but program code and advertising code under the Act is monitored by various agencies of government. Also, there are two industry level regulatory bodies for self-regulation. For non-news sector, there is Broadcasting Contempt Complaints Council, an independent council comprising 12 members with retired judge of Supreme Court or High Court as chairperson. For news and current affairs channels, the self-regulatory body is News Broadcasting Standards Authority, set up by News Broadcasters Association. Therefore, rest are unregulated. Regulation of print media in India is governed by Press Council Act 1978 that establishes Press Council of India. The council is statutorily empowered to cognizance or entertain complaints of violations of journalistic standards and ethics. In cybersphere, we have Information Technology Act 2000, amended in 2008. Information technology rules which direct intermediaries to remove objectionable content were introduced in 2011. Section 66A inserted in the Act had made it a punishable offence to send offensive or false messages through a computer device. However, there was no guideline for identification of offensiveness. The said provision has been set aside recently by the Supreme Court as being violative of free speech, as it has often been said to have been invoked arbitrarily or with political motive to block access to content allegedly objectionable. As while the judgment upheld freedom of media, it has left open to the field of regulation of offensive messages on media. How to regulate this now after striking down of section 66A is a big question for you to debate. We understand that there are different views on media regulation. ये 800 वर्ड के साथ डिक्टेट किया गया है, 90 की स्पीड है. कंटेंट इसका आपको अनसीन पार्लियामेंट से बोला गया है. 23 नंबर है, सॉफ्टवेयर पे आपको मिल जाएगा ये आपको. नेक्स्ट आप कंटेंट केसेस लिखेंगे.